everyone. My name is Danial Khilji, and I work at Choreograph as a junior data scientist. As a junior data scientist, where we basically give tailored marketing and advertisement related solutions using data to a variety of different clients. My topic of presentation today is feature matching using natural language processing. I will start with showing you the agenda slide where, and I'm going to show you that what are the things that I'm going to discuss today. So I will start with the problem statement, and then I will show you a quick overview of the solution. And then I will take you through the methodology steps that we have built over the time in the choreograph. And then I will also show you some sample results, and we'll discuss with you what are the few couple of things that we have been thinking about that we can improve in the future. So before jumping into the actual problem, I would like to also highlight some of the simple use cases, although there could be many other use cases that why we need this solution. These are some of the use cases that we at Choreograph have been working with. So in the marketing industry, mostly we often need to work with different data sets, and we often have a need to combine them together so that we can build machine learning models on top of them, or in many different ways. It could be also that you need to populate one data set with another one, or just translate a number of audience from one data set to another. So these are some of the examples where you need to fuse the data sets together. So when you have to combine the, or you can say fuse the data sets together, the first thing you need to do is basically find the common columns, or also known as common features between these data sets. So as you can see on the slide, we have two different data sets. I have taken two public data sets, one from the IMDb website and the other one is from the Netflix public website. Both of them basically are quite different data set, but if you look closely, they both have very similar kind of information. Both of them will give you some different kinds of details on movies and TV series. And if I have to combine these two data sets, what I will basically do is that I will take one column from the, let's say, IMDb dataset, and then I will start matching it with each of the single columns or each of the single features with the Netflix dataset. And I will try to find a best feature match between them. And then I will repeat the process for all of the features between IMDb and Netflix until I am satisfied with all the common features between both of the datasets. Now, it may sound a very simple problem, and when you have datasets with, or you can say maybe 10 or 20 set of features in each of the dataset, it's not even a time-consuming thing. But when we work with bigger datasets, we can have features as much as 500, 1000 plus features, especially when we work with the survey data. It's quite common that we have a huge list of questions that is being used as list of features, and the data set basically grows as much as 1000 columns. So when you're trying to do the feature matching between two different data sets where you have lots of, or you can say thousands of columns, it gets super time consuming to find the common features between these data sets. It can take as much as days to basically find the features. So as a result, basically this was the main motivation to create something that can help and reduce the time to basically match the data sets or match the different kinds of audience between the data sets. So we started with a simple idea, and what we do is basically, as you can see over here, is that we take the two data sets that we need to combine or use together in any way, and then we take the list of features or list of column names of from both of these datasets, and then we send both of these lists to an algorithm, and then that algorithm will basically give us a list of common feature matches as a result. So this is basically the current methodology that we have. The algorithm takes two feature list from two different datasets, and then it runs some pre-processing where it will do some basic data cleaning, and then it will do some like natural language processing related cleaning. So for example, do some uh, it will delete some stop words, it will do some lemmatization, and it will also run some other steps that we will go through in the next few slides. And then after that, it will pass these lists, processed lists, into the similarity measure component where we will do the similarity matching using different techniques. And then at the end, we will do some post processing where we try to bring the results back to the human readable format. Okay, so starting with the first step of the pre-processing, where the main things that we take care in this part is that we make sure that we remove all the null values, or we remove all the unnecessary columns from both of the data frames or the list that we get at the input. And most of the times it's still a manual work, and most of the times it's also a use case dependent, depending on how we basically what is the shape of the input list of features that we get. And then after that, the first major component is the language processing, or you can say the text cleaning part of the project. Over here, the first we run some language processing related tasks in a specific sequence. So the first one is that we do the normalization of the text. What we mean by normalization is basically we convert all the uppercase letters into the lowercase letters. So in both of the list, we have all the letters of all the words in the lowercase. And then we move to the next part where we remove some special characters of any kind that exist in any of the words. So it could be any kind of special brackets or special signs, maybe dollar sign or slash or anything. And then we move to the next part, which is tokenization, where we break each of the sentence or each of the feature name into the list of words. Why we need to do that, we will come to that point in the next couple of slides. But after the tokenization, we remove some stop words, which can basically give you a very high similarity score at the end. But if we have lots of stop words, it doesn't really make sense to have such a high similarity score. And once we have removed the stop words, we do some lemmatization on top of the words that we have after the stop words component. And you can also ask like why we are not doing this stemming instead of lemmatization. The answer is simple, that lemmatization performs far better than stemming in our case specifically. And what it does basically is that in the lemmatization, it basically brings the word into the present tense format. So for example, let's say if we take the word change, it could be that in one of the list, the feature name contains word changing or maybe changes or changed, but in the other one, it could be any of these words from this list. But if we lemmatize both of the feature names that contain, maybe one of them might be containing changes and one of them might be containing changed, but if we change them into the word change, then we have a very common word in both of the different names. And when we do the similarity matching, we will get a very high similarity score between these two matches. And then after that, we generate some vector embeddings, and we will also get to that why we really need to generate the BERT embeddings. And you can see at the bottom over here that how basically the input of this language processing component and the output of language processing component will look like. So you have a word sentence, my name is slash Danial dash Khilji, and then it will, the language processing component will basically lowercase all the words, and then it will remove the special characters such as slash and dash, and it will also remove stop words like is over here. And these are the main things that it will do over here. So, and the next major part of the project is basically the similarity measures. How we are doing that is that we run two different kinds of similarity methods in parallel. The first one is basic statistical method, which is Jaccard similarity, and the other one is cosine similarity. Both of them require different kinds of input. The Jaccard similarity takes the lemmatized tokens that we created in the previous step, and we give two different sets of token. The first set of token is coming from the first set of features, and the second set of token is coming from the second set of features. And similarly, in the case of cosine similarity, we give it a vector embeddings created from the BERT model for the first set of features, and also for the second set of features. And now, when we created this kind of architecture, some people also ask like why we cannot really have more than two methods in the parallel. Of course, we can have lots of other similarity methods in parallel, but when we started experimenting, we started with 4 and 5 as well, but we realized that it doesn't really give major improvements in the results after all. And secondly, it was also computationally expensive. So we ended up using only two methods in parallel. One of them is Jaccard similarity, which is very a basic statistical one, and the other one is the advanced BERT-based cosine similarity. Okay, so what is the Jaccard similarity to be exact? What it does is basically it takes the two sentences. In our use case, these are the two different feature names from two different lists, and it will find the common words between these two sentences, and it will count the number of these common words, and it will divide it by the total number of words in both of the sentences. So over here, for example, we have sentence one, AI is our friend and it has been our friend. And the second one is AI and human have always been friends. Now it will take both of these sentences and it will figure out AI has friend, been, and these are the five words that are common. And then it will divide the five by the total number of words in both of the sentences. And another important point is that for example, you have features list one, or just like over here, and the features list two. The BERT model will take the first feature from list one, and it will match it with each of the single features from list two, and it will repeat the process for all the features in list one to match with all the features of list two. So eventually, at the output, final output of Jaccard similarity, you will end up with something like this, where you have each of the match combination from list one and list two and their scores as well. And now we come to the second kind of similarity matching in parallel, which is cosine similarity. And before that, how we create the vector embeddings for cosine similarity, we create using the BERT embeddings basically. We are using the pre-trained BERT model, and there are lots of different pre-trained models available on the internet. We have experimented quite a few, but the three listed over here are the best one that we figured out after doing some different kinds of experiments. And at the moment, we have basically ended up using the BERT-based NLI mean tokens. This is the best kind of model that works for the similarity matching. And of course, there are some other pre-trained models that were specifically built and trained for the similarity matching. And the best of them is basically BERT ER, also known as BERT entity resolution. But after doing some experiments, we figured out that it doesn't give as much higher accuracy as these three listed over here. So why the other thing that I want to highlight is that why we really need to use the BERT similarity method in parallel with Jaccard similarity. The main reason is that Jaccard similarity will be able to find the common words in your sentence, but it wouldn't be able to understand the context of each single sentence. So, for example, if I give these two sentences that are written over here, the first one is how old are you, and the second one is what is your age. If I send this to the Jaccard similarity, it won't be able to give a very high similarity score between these two because the set of words between these two sentences is quite low. And as a human, we know that these two questions are basically exactly the same thing. So that is the really nice thing about BERT is that it will be able to understand this context and it will be able to give a very high similarity score between these two sentences. Now, once we have a list of BERT vector embeddings for feature list 1 and the feature list 2, we will send it to the cosine similarity function and it will compute these embeddings in n-dimensional space. And it will calculate the orientation between each of the single sentence embedding that are plotted on the n-dimensional space. And once we have these orientation scores, we end up with a data frame very similar to this one, where you have each single combination between feature list 1 and feature list 2, and then cosine similarity score in the third column. Now we, after doing both of the similarity matches, we end up with two data frames, one that is coming from the Jaccard similarity function and the other one which is coming from the cosine similarity function. We send it to the post-processing part, and in the post-processing part, the first step that we run is that we merge both of the outputs of Jaccard and cosine similarity together, and then we calculate the weighted average of the scores that are coming from the Jaccard and cosine similarity. And on the weighted average, we give higher weight to the cosine similarity. Right now, we are giving as much as 80% weight to the cosine similarity score and 30 to 20% weight to the Jaccard similarity score. And once we have done that, we have a very huge list of all the possible matches. And for example, if you have a feature list of 1000 and the second list is about 15, maybe 500, 1500, you will end up with millions of matches in the data frame, which is basically not the best scenario if you want to just get the best matches out of this process. So what we do to try to reduce the number of matches in the final output, we do some different kinds of filtering. The first one is that we run the pass it through the threshold value. It could be any threshold value, and you can do some kinds of iterations on what is the best threshold value that works for you. At the moment, the best threshold value that works for us is 0.7. So for example, you have scores ranging between 0 to 1. We pass it through the threshold value of 0.7. So at the output, we only get the matches that have score equal to or greater than 0.7. And then we sort, since we have already sorted the match list in a descending order, so we have the highest score matches at the top, and we take the top end matches for each of the single match for list 1. So for example, I have taken the, I will go back to the slide to explain that. For example, I have the gender feature name from the list 1, and I have matched it to all the 4 feature names from the list 2. Now I don't want to see all of these 4 matches. So what I will do is, after the sorting, I will figure out that maybe I will just need top 2 scores. So for this single feature, I will take only these 2 top scores, and then I will repeat the same filtering process for all of the features in the list 1. So I end up with lower number of matches, but best number of matches at the result stage. And then if you have some unique IDs in the beginning, along with the feature list that you gave at the input, you can join it back with the result data frame at this stage. Now, before showing you the results, this is the complete end-to-end architecture that we are working right now. So looking from the left-hand side, you give two list of features at the input, you pass it through some basic data processing, and then you send it to the main language processing part where you will run some natural language processing related steps in a specific sequence. And then at the output, you end up with two kinds of uh, sets of tokens and vector embeddings, and you pass these sets of tokens and vector embeddings into Jaccard similarity and cosine similarity respectively. And at the output of similarity measures, you take the average of both of the results, and then you do some post processing and do some filtering to make these results human readable. So once you see the end results, they come out to be something like this. I will specifically highlight the second table over here because I have shown the IMDb dataset and Netflix dataset example in the next in the beginning in first few slides. So this is what I will show you again. That for example, I matched the IMDb and Netflix dataset for my use case. You can see that although these datasets are coming from two different places, and but since they give similar kind of information, you get very good amount of similar features between these two datasets. So this is what we have done, and for the future work, these are the few things that we have been discussing in our company. The first one is that concatenate the feature description with the feature name. So in there are many cases that when we get the data sets, we also get a list of features in another file, and this file that contains the list of features, it also contains uh, explanation of each single feature. So in order to give better understanding to both of the similarity techniques, what we do is that we concatenate the feature names along with the feature descriptions, so we get more number of words in each single sentence. This way we are able to improve the similarity matching. And then the second step is a bit tricky one, and we call it a value based matching. So you can see over here, I have tried to show it as an example. So for example, you have list of features one, and then another second features list, and then you are trying to match feature names that are very highly dependent on the values that they are using. So both of these lists contain the ages, and both of them will match with very good amount of scores. But the distinguishing thing in both of these lists is the age ranges that are being used. So for example, in the first list, age 18 to 20 will be matched with all of the age ranges in the second list. Now, since it makes sense that we just need one-to-one perfect match in this scenario, and that will be age 1 to 20, 18 to 20 match with age 18 to 20 from list 2. And then the rest of the matches will of course they will give you a lower score, and we still don't want them. So how can we delete those? One way is that we sort them in the descending order and just take the highest score match, and we say that this is the best match. But the other way is that we take the value separately, and then we take the differences of these values, and we see which these two values have the lowest difference. Then we say that that is the best match. We haven't still figured out how to implement this feature, but we are still working on this one. And then the third one is that we only uh, match similar category type of features. So in larger data sets or databases, when we get the list of features, they are usually categorized into different categories. So you have information, or you can say some part of list that is demographics, and then some part of features that are just interests, and then some part of features that are just persona, and so on. So we don't really want to match the demographics with the interest in the other data set. So we should have some kind of filter that will only map or match the demographics kind of features to the demographics kind of feature. And then same goes for the interest. So it matches the interest kind of feature with the interest kind of feature. So this is what we have been trying to implement so far. And the last but not least, we are still trying to also figure out that how can we use the ChatGPT instead of BERT, or at least on top of BERT. But that is one thing I'm still working on, so I wouldn't say a lot on that. So thank you everyone, and yep, that's all from my end. If you have any questions, please ask away.